Dear respected brothers and sisters, insha'Allah ta'ala, tonight we will start with the third Imam from among the A'imma Arba'ah, the four great Imams and the great luminaries of our Islamic history, to whom we owe a great deal to. So the first one that I shared with you, the first Imam was Imam Abu Hanifa Nu'man ibn Thabit rahimahullah ta'ala. The second one was Muhammad bin Idris al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. Tonight's man of honor is Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, known as the Imam of Madinatul Munawwarah. And Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala tried his best, and he never went outside of Madinatul Munawwarah unless it was for Hajj or Umrah. To the extent that the Islamic government would send him invitations and he would not accept the invitations. Why? Because of his immense love for Madinatul Munawwarah. He did not want to travel outside of Madinatul Munawwarah. Now Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala was born in the year 93, while Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah was still alive. And he passed away in the year 179 when he was 86 years of age. And the books of history have mentioned that Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, whenever he would walk into a gathering, his presence would be felt and the people's hearts would be filled with awe. And they have mentioned in regards to his description that he was tall and he was broad-chested. In other words, he was naturally muscular. And they have mentioned that Allah Azza wa Jalla had blessed him with beautiful wide eyes. And his hair was not brown or black, his hair was actually blonde. And they have also mentioned in regards to his description that his eye color was inclining more towards being blue. So he had a very unique look. Now imagine later on when he grew up, when he was about 16, 17, 18 years of age, and he's considered to be one of the most influential people in Madinatul Munawwarah, right? And they considered him to be one of the great scholars of Madinatul Munawwarah. And then later on they regarded him to be the greatest scholar from amongst all the scholars in Madinatul Munawwarah. When this type of man would walk in, he would bring some heaviness into the gathering and his presence would be felt. Now Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala's father was actually a tabi'i. A tabi'i, if you recall, meant someone who saw the Sahaba radiallahu anhum. His grandfather, meaning his father's father, was also named Malik. And his great-grandfather was actually Abu Amir, who's a Sahabi of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So his great-grandfather was named Abu Amir radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who was the close companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His grandfather, meaning Imam Malik's grandfather, who's also named Malik, he was also a close friend and a close ally of Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. When Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu passed away, Imam Malik's grandfather, Malik rahimahullah, was actually the one who took him to Baqi', where he was going to be buried. And he was holding the body of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So the fact that you are given the honor to bury one of the Khalifas and one of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that shows how close you must have been to that individual. That everyone had agreed that this man, Malik, he deserves this honor. Now Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala's grandfather, he passed away when Imam Malik was 7 years of age. Around the age of 9 and 10, Imam Malik with his siblings and his parents, they were sitting one night in Madinatul Munawwarah and they're having their dinner. Imam Malik rahimahullah's older brother was actually a scholar, a very learned scholar. And his father, Imam Malik's father, Anas, rahimahullah, was also a scholar of hadith, and he was handicapped and he was paralyzed. But yet, at the end of the day, he never became dependent on the government to take the funds from the government. They still had their own side hustle to be able to sustain their family. So he never gave up, and he never gave up hope in Allah Azza wa Jal. So upon an occasion, Imam Malik rahimahullah, since I believe he was the youngest child, and usually the youngest ones are the most spoiled ones. They're usually the most spoiled ones. Imam Malik rahimahullah's parents, up until the age of 9 or 10, used to consistently remind him about learning Quran and Hadith and ilm, and he had no interest. And Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala was always running after entertainment. And he had a passion, and he used to chase and run after birds and pigeons all day long until he would catch them, and he would even hunt some of them. This was his passion as a child. I mean, there were no video games and movies and TV shows and screens at that time. So the kids in the street would be playing like this. Play tag, play hide and seek. He would be out the entire day, not focused on his deen. One night, when they were eating, his father, who was a scholar, just knew that his son has this ghayrah. You know, sometimes when someone says to us that you cannot do this, there's that sense of honor that comes in about our hearts that, yes, I can do it. So Imam Malik rahimahullah's parents were smart. They knew that their son has this self-respect, that when you say something to him that you can't do it, he will actually say, no, I can do it. So on the table, or when they were sitting on the dastakhan, on the dining table or the dining mat, his father asked his older son that, what is this ruling in fiqh? So Imam Malik's older brother answered it. And Imam Malik is sitting there thinking, and he was not able to answer it. So the father said to him that the pigeons have distracted you. The pigeons have distracted you. In other words, you're of no use. So that had a profound impact on him, a very profound impact on him. And then Imam Malik rahimahullah realized that I need to go and learn hadith. So he started to incline towards learning the hadith and Islam, but there's still that part of him he wanted to become a singer. So his mom, may Allah have mercy on her, dressed him up in that gathering, and she groomed him. She made him wear the turban, and she said, let's go to Masjid Nabawi. So the young Malik says, Mom, but I want to become a singer. That I have this passion, I want to become a singer. Like how nowadays when you ask those who are millennials and they are about in their 20s, like of my age, when we were youngsters, we never thought that you would end up becoming a scholar or a hafiz or a person who's involved in this field. We always had this passion that I would become a basketball player. I will become a movie star. I will become a celebrity figure. I will become a soccer player. I will become a wrestler, right? I will become this and I will become that. But then life turns around. So Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala's ambition was what? That he wanted to become a singer. And at that time, in order to be a singer, you have to have the looks and the good voice. So when he mentioned that to his mother, and the father is listening also, look at the tarbiyah and how smart they were. They didn't say to him, Astaghfirullah haram, you'll burn in hell. The mother said that, listen, Malik, you do not have the looks, even though he had the looks. She said, you do not have the looks. You're just going to embarrass yourself if you go out there and become a singer. You might as well become someone else. Become a ustad, become an alim, become a muhaddith, become a faqih, become something else. So Imam Malik rahimahullah, as a child, he took the advice of his mother and they went to Masjid Nabawi. And the moment they walked into Masjid Nabawi, there were 70 halaqas of hadith being taught. 70 gatherings of 70 different scholars. And since Imam Malik's mother was sharp, smart, intellectual, she was very learned also in Quran and Hadith, and she knew all the local scholars. So among the 70 scholars, she chose Rabi'ah ibn Abdul Rahman, rahimahullah. And Rabi'ah ibn Abdul Rahman, rahimahullah, in the books of history and in the books of Hadith, he's known as Rabi'atul Ra'i, because the word Rabi'ah means a garden, for something to become blossom, for something to become beautiful, for something to become green, for something to become pleasing to the eyes. So they used to call him Rabi'atul Ra'i, the one who's a garden and a blossom of the most correct opinion. Because whenever the scholars of Medina were not able to extract a ruling from Quran and Hadith, they would go up to Rabi'ah, and Rabi'ah bin Abdul Rahman rahimahullah would give his opinion, and all the other scholars would agree upon that opinion, and they would say that his opinion is the most correct and the most safe and the most sound. So that's how he got his name, Rabi'atul Ra'i. His mother, Imam Malik's mother, said to him that ta'allam min adabihi qabla ilmi. This is very important and very profound advice, that when you go to your ustad, Rabi'ah, first learn from his akhlaq, how he sits, how he stands, how he talks. Learn his humbleness from him. Then learn ilm. Then learn ilm. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum said in a hadith that with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we first learned iman and then we learned ilm. When the opposite happens, when you're always learning ilm, and you're not learning about the lives of the Sahaba, for example, or the humbleness of the Tabi'un and etc., then most likely that ilm of yours is going to turn you towards the path of takabbur and pride, not towards the path of humbleness. So his mother said, the Malik, learn from the adab of who? Of Rabi'ah bin Abdul Rahman first, then learn his ilm. Now, what happened was, upon an occasion, and I'll end off with this short story, when Imam Malik rahimahullah was about of the age of 16, when he was a youngster and a teenager and he was excelling in his ilm, there was an imam by the name of Imam Az-Zuhri rahimahullah ta'ala, very famous imam. I have come across his name almost in each and every single book of history and every single book of hadith and fiqh that you learn. وقال ابن شهاب الزهري رحمه الله تعالى. He's known as Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, the great imam. So on the day of Eid, Imam Malik went to the house of Imam Az-Zuhri. And Imam Az-Zuhri was thinking that maybe this youngster came to my house because since I am an imam of Medina, and on the day of Eid, everyone is giving me the meat and everyone is giving me sweets. Maybe he came to eat. So Imam Az-Zuhri rahimahullah presented the food in front of Imam Malik rahimahullah. Imam Malik rahimahullah said to him that, "O Imam, I did not come to eat, but rather I want to take this opportunity to learn hadith from you." He was a very difficult man to get a hold of. Imam Az-Zuhri rahimahullah ta'ala taught him 40 ahadith. 40 ahadith with all the chain of narrations. And then he said to him that this is it for today. Go and memorize it and understand it. And then the next time when you're able to catch me, I'll teach you more hadith. Imam Malik said to him that I memorized everything. So Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, he's now confused. He says to him, read to me, recite to me the 40 ahadith. Imam Malik rahimahullah, word for word, letter for letter, recited everything from A to Z. And Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri rahimahullah said to him, stand up, stand up. Imam Malik stood up, and Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri is looking at him, and he's now full of awe. He's full of awe, and he has that haibah, and he's looking at this youngster who's strong, muscular, about 16 years of age, blonde hair, very good looking, smart, sharp, intellectual. And he says to him that Allah Azza wa Jal has made you a vessel of ilm. and you will benefit the ummah. Allah has made you a vessel and a container of ilm. Ever since then, Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala's stories were phenomenal. They were literally extraordinary, and they were totally out of this world. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability and the tawfiq to follow the footsteps of our pious predecessors and to follow and tread the path of ilm with amal. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحان الله بحمده سبحانك اللهم بحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك جزاكم الله خيرا.